From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. And sometimes that adventure is just you at your house. But that's an adventure too. I'm Ken Napzok.
Straight from my house, I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
And I'm Jennifer Landa, also in my living room.
We're here. The age of home studios, and that includes a corner in your house, your backyard, wherever you are. And I'm glad for it. I'm happy you're all here today. Happy we're going to be, we're back and happy we're going to be discussing something that's in the Star Wars and pop culture zeitgeist. The Bad Batch spawning a lot of animation talk, and that's our discussion today, the future of Star Wars animation, which is kind of a temperature check. We get to do this every few years, and it's a lot of fun to look forward. But before we get to all that, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And a little bit later, we'll have a ForceCenter recommends an audiobook we think you should try out on us. Joseph, I pitch it to you because I'm about to just fall off the bicycle of podcast hosting.
I understand. It is really fun to podcast with friends for years and years and years and be very sensitive to their energy levels.
It wasn't a great morning. It wasn't a bad one. It just wasn't a great morning.
It's totally fine. One of the things I love about our podcasting style is honesty. We always tell people we record on Monday morning, and sometimes I'm like just a little bushy squirrel just ready to go, and other times I'm faking it. And we're all a little tired this Monday morning, which is great.
Indeed.
But yeah, we're going to talk about some life in Star Wars adventures. We like to catch up with one another and with you about what we've been up to and if Star Wars has found our way into our lives. Jennifer, did you have an incredibly exciting adventure? Did you do some cliff jumping, anything?
No, I did not. And but off air, I was like, I have no adventures, but I'll talk a little bit about what I did do, which I mentioned off air, which is I brought out my Wampa puppet that I got at Star Wars Celebration Orlando many years ago. And it's such a cute puppet. So first I was like, ooh, the fur kept getting in the puppet's eyes. So I was like, maybe I should take out the eyes. That was a disaster. So I just left it as is. Then I realized I need to move the puppet's arms. So I was trying to like makeshift some arm rods. Then I just was like, I'm just going to go for it because I have a bunch of ideas I wanted to shoot for kids. And I thought, this is going to be so much fun. It'll be like Pee-wee's Playhouse and Sesame Street for Star Wars. I did it. And it actually doesn't look so bad, but it's really hard. My arm was tired to do this, to sync it up with whatever I'm saying. And then to somehow move this ridiculous makeshift, I literally used a kebab skewer and I shoved it in the arm.
Nice.
Because I didn't want to wait for Amazon to give me the arm rod. So I just shoved it in the arm. So only one arm could move. It's really hard. I have a friend who's a puppeteer who makes it look so easy. I'm like, I can do that. So I haven't edited it. I don't think I will. I don't know if I'm going to go down this road.
I think we need to see this now because you never clarified whether you replaced the Wampa's eyes. So I'm just.
I was like, a note, please go back to you scooping out the Wampa.
I'm sorry. No, you should have seen me trying to replace his eyes. I was like seeing what it would look like, and it just looked like startled. And then I bought like some like foam balls that were this big, and it just looked terrified. And I had a very kind follower who said, a friend of mine, he's like, maybe you should put some eyelids on the Wampa's eyes, make it so it doesn't look as startled. Anyways, I don't know. We'll see.
This sounds beautiful and
horrible.
Look
at that. See, that's cute. You can very clearly see the Wampa's eyes.
It's a peeved Wampa, though. It really looked like something was said that the Wampa does not like. That one's eyes.
One last thing I'll say is I actually went and bought fake eyelashes because I was like, it needs something to match the voice, which is my voice. So I put fake eyelashes on the Wampa.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
There's no way this doesn't see the light of day now.
Yeah, come on.
It's ridiculous. I mean, like,
come on.
Furby has eyelashes. That's kind of what gave me the idea.
Yeah.
So cute. So.
All right. # release the Wampa puppet video. Nice, direct, easy to remember hashtag. And who knows if the hashtag works depending on what social media you're on in our ridiculous fractured times.
Right.
Anyway,
sorry.
no sorry is needed. cannot wait to see that.
That's amazing.
My life adventures were manifold, but whenever possible, my wife and I have really been trying to take Saturday off and actually do something fun. I know, weird. But we did a double feature. We haven't done this in years to see 2 movies. We had a great conversation about like we both want to see a couple of the Oscar movies. In like which one are you interested in? And we were both like, well, Poor Things, and then like, but also American Fiction. Like, wait, let's do both. And I thought they were both fantastic in very, very different ways, but I was thrilled to discover they both have important scenes involving martinis. So I felt like my personal interests were represented. And then after the movies, we were headed home. And anybody who's familiar with Los Angeles is probably familiar with the hot dog stand / restaurant Pink's. But if you're not, it opened in 1939 as like a cart, and then it built into a sort of like, I think it just kind of grew from a cart organically into a little restaurant thing with the patio. It's been there for years and years, obviously, and we had never been. I was so ignorant as to think I could just get a hot dog with no chili on it, but no, I'm sure I could ask, but it ain't on the menu. You got to get chili on that thing. And they've got in their little waiting area of the restaurant, once you've ordered and you're waiting to pick up, they have all of these signed pictures from different celebrities, events they've had at Pink's or holding Pink's. They strangely just have a promo shot from Orson Welles and Citizen Kane. So I don't know if that means he ate there and didn't want to take a picture with the hot dog. I don't know. They've got a funny Miss Piggy one about like, I don't really eat hot dogs, but I still love Pink's. But the reason that I'm bringing this up, that brings it back to Star Wars, right on top, there's a beautiful, perfect picture of Carl Weathers with just a huge grin and a couple hot dogs. And not only is it the sort of the Carl Weathers aesthetic with his, you can make a stew joke from Arrested Development, but he looked like Grief Karga doing some sort of promotional tour to advertise the colonies on Navarro. And going to a famous old hot dog place, looking up and seeing Carl Weathers made me go like, I want to rewatch The Mandalorian. So Pink's became a Star Wars adventure because of Carl Weathers.
Oh, that's so funny.
I love that. Pink's. Everyone in here hates you. Yes.
Exactly.
Great.
So Ken, what about you? What were your what adventures exhausted you to this point?
Life, everything. I since I've made it a thing in every show I'm on, my back's getting a lot better. Thank you for all the well wishes for those that have sent them, and even those that just thought them. But other than that, no, I mentioned on the live show. By the way, live show Friday was a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone that turned out and made it a fun show. I mentioned on it, I'm selling some of my bigger Star Wars Lego sets, which is not something that I want to do, but kind of felt it's time. And also, if you look at the Lego market, you kind of go, yeah, I could maybe sell it for that amount. That's a good number. It's pretty crazy out there. Anyways, I'm selling them, but I did make one sale, and I mentioned on the show, but it was the Millennium Falcon from the Force Awakens release. And God, it was hard to sell it. It was really hard to sell it, but you got to. And I mentioned it's going to good home, and then I remember on the live show I stumbled into I can't reveal who because it's a gift for a friend of a friend, and they might watch. Too late, I already blew it. But anyways, it was just a lot of fun, and to just go back in my memories to that time, but also just every time I was listing them on my website. If you want to go, you can shop on my website. They'll be on eBay tonight. And I had one from like 2008, the Raiders of the Lost Ark Temple Escape set, which is out of print. An AT-AT, I bought in 2012 when I had my day job, and that was during that time period that we talked about. Like, I used to get in trouble at my day job for displaying that kind of stuff, and I didn't build it and put it in the office. It's in the box, but I had it in my office for a while because that's where I bought it. And took a picture of it. Early Instagram photo is me being really excited in front of this AT-AT. So it was fun. And even though they might be out of my life, no one is ever really gone, and I could still get them back. And that's my intention to do that one day. So it's an up and down emotional journey. I'm glad I have these memories. And really with these collectibles, displaying them, Joseph, you know the struggle of do I display, do I not display? And sometimes you look back, and Jen, you've had things your whole life where you're like, there's that I'm not getting rid of. But that just kind of represents a period of time. and it's our relationship to these collectibles is powerful without a doubt. So it's been a fun journey to look back and go, hey, it's not that I have it, it's that I got it, and that's the joy I'll take going forward. So that's where I'm at with that bittersweet symphony.
It's such a great way to look at it, and it's something I'm wrestling with because I do need to decrease a little bit of all of my possessions across the board because the price of a storage space in Los Angeles is the price of a good 2-bedroom apartment in many places in the country. It is painful and dumb. So that was one of our painful adventures this week of looking in our storage unit and just sighing for a little while and then leaving. But the way you put that, of like, once you've owned something that means a lot to you, there's those things you're never going to get rid of. But other things, it's a fun mental game of like, okay, when I think of this, will I still think of all the happy memories of when I got it, who gave it to me, or will it sting too much because I let it go? Is a good way to measure.
Will it sting?
Will it
sting? I was tempted by your Jabba. You have a Jabba throne room, right?
Yeah, Jabba's palace. Yeah,
Jabba's palace. And I was like, what if I super glue them? Is that against the Lego rules? No.
No. A lot of like big time Lego collectors will glue them together. In fact, when I used to go to the South Coast Plaza when the Lego company would come in and do the big displays in the mall. This is the early '80s when they were still trying to say like, look at this. Yeah, I mean, it was massive. I have positive memories of just giant circuses in the middle of the mall that are all Lego and everything. Yeah, and they would glue them together. So yeah, you're okay.
All right.
Do it.
Looking at I too am trying to clean things out, but that was tempting.
An ongoing challenge. Maybe we'll do a whole episode just with emotional catharsis, counseling episode for ourselves about the bittersweet memories. Well, those are some great adventures. Should we dive into the future of Star Wars animation?
Please, let's look to the future where it's bright.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll start looking to the future by looking at the past. I just couldn't resist when I was writing up the notes to kind of review a little bit of where we've been with animation. We're all three of us big fans of Star Wars animation. I think the animation at different times for all of us has played kind of a pivotal role in our fandoms. And I think we're all excited for more. But there is something bittersweet with all the Bad Batch excitement in the air. In the show wrapping up its 3rd season this year, because there's excitement for Bad Batch, but also the sadness that we're saying goodbye to it, and this sort of feeling that we're going to discuss a little bit, like it could possibly be the end of an era as it wraps up some of the Clone Wars animated series storytelling with the clones' ultimate future. Maybe not, but we want to start with the big picture, going back to the beginning. Jennifer, what was your first experience with Star Wars animation? Was it a VHS of Boba Fett and the Holiday Special? Was it the Ewoks and Droids cartoons on Saturday morning? What was your first experience?
It was the Ewoks and Droids cartoon. And I remember I was not into the droids. I liked the Ewoks, but the Ewoks was a little scary at times. So I would kind of pop in, but I was really obsessed with, Smurfs, gummy bears, like all those things. But what's interesting is that the animation studio was Nelvana Studios, who also produced some of the greatest, obviously Ewoks, droids. They also did Strawberry Shortcake specials, Herself the Elf movie. So I was a fan of Nelvana. They have a very specific animation style. It just seems like quintessential 1970s to me. I love it. But,
yeah, and they have a dedication to 3 fingers, right?
Oh, I don't know. Do they?
Well, I believe the animation of like 3PO and droids, he's got 3 fingers because that's the Nelvana house style, I believe. But I'll look up. But
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, but that to me is a part of the charm of them. It was very clearly adaptation, not trying to be as clearly. Let's make them look like they do in the movies. It was adaptation.
Right.
Jennifer, did you come to? Had you already been exposed to Star Wars in the movie theater or on VHS? Was Droids and Ewoks a continuation of your journey, or was that one of your first entry points?
It was Return of the Jedi was the first entry point, and like the action figures, obviously the Ewoks, but very early memories. So and the Ewoks cartoon, it just was kind of a natural extension of that. Like Star Wars was so prevalent during that time. It was just like, oh yeah, of course, like Indiana Jones and all these things. So it just felt like a natural progression.
Yeah, no,
and then it went away.
A natural progression that quickly disappeared. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Only to be spoken about again in 1987 for the 10th anniversary. Ken, what was your beginning of your animated Star Wars adventure?
It's funny. I honestly, I think the answer might be the Tartakovsky Clone Wars and then the Clone Wars series.
Wow.
Ewoks and droids I was very aware of, but it kind of seems like a fever dream. I wasn't watching it, and I actually blame a little bit of that on the Ewoks movies, which I have a special place in my heart for from that kind of kitschy way, but like as a youngster just coming fresh off Return of the Jedi, those didn't exactly hit with me. So it was like now the Saturday morning cartoon, I was still watching things on Saturday morning, but it was more Pee-wee's Playhouse and Robotech on the weekdays and stuff like that. So I was like probably got a little snooty about it. Probably was like, not for me, this silly little Ewoks and droids cartoon. So I didn't spend a lot of time with it. Very aware of it in terms of that pop culture way. But yeah, honestly, for me, the Tartakovsky stuff showed up, and I was in a house with sharing an apartment with 3 other Cal Arts students who all went on to work in animation and still are. So it was fun to kind of sit down with them and them take it in with their eyes, and me kind of like in the midst of that prequel era and really liking it. And I do have, we revisited them not too long ago here on ForceCenter. I think some of the stuff did not age as well for me, just in terms of as an early 2000s approach to Star Wars. But I think that was my first kind of like, all right, this doesn't feel bad, Star Wars in this form.
Yeah. So I looked up the droids, and yes, the 3PO has 3 fingers and a thumb. Not all the colored characters have 3 fingers, but 3PO has 3 fingers and a thumb, which is funny to me because I think it would annoy 3PO the most to have that, like, a digit is missing. This is incorrect. Yeah, I think my experience was I did watch the holiday special when it aired, and it is a foggy memory because I was teeny tiny. But then I was old enough to be watching Saturday morning cartoons, enjoying the hell out of them. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was like one of my seminal early childhood memories, and just like being like, why isn't Star Wars on here too? And then Return of the Jedi comes out, and then the cartoons come out, and I was now old enough to already be a gritty Gen Xer who wanted things edgy.
Yeah, edgelord, you edgelord.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this journey many times, and always want to own it, but it does, I think, inform my reaction to animation. It was, especially coming out of Empire, kids liked it because, like, oh, dude, Luke got his hand cut off by his own dad, and who knows if Han's even gonna live, and Boba Fett's the coolest guy ever. It was the obsession, the focus was on the stuff that was edgier and harder, and then people of that age and of that ilk were challenged by the Ewoks and Han calming down a bit in Return of the Jedi and all that. So when other kids fantasized about, could Star Wars be on Saturday morning? Like, yeah, with Jedi, or maybe a bounty hunter Boba Fett show where he kicks A.
Oh my gosh.
And then instead we got, totally now as an adult, totally understanding. Lucas was really focused on, this is for kids. He had young children at the time, pulling all of the friendlier, safer elements out and turning those into the cartoons and making them a little bit more cute in my eyes at the time. Looking back now, there's actually a bunch of terrifying stuff in both of them, particularly the Ewoks. Is like, hey kids, welcome to the dark forest where weird crap happens. They're not as cute and safe as I had remembered, but at the time I tried so hard to like them, but I was like, where are the Jedi, where are the bounty hunters, where's the violence?
Where's the violence?
Which brings me then to your experience, Ken, with the Gennady Tartakovsky, because I think, again, owning the perspective of my generation and my age, there were similar frustrations with some of the prequel stuff, where that was part of the kickback against Jar Jar. We don't want the cute, we don't want the funny, we want the edgy. We love the Obi-Wan Maul lightsaber battle, and I feel like the Gennady Tartakovsky Clone Wars just went in hard for. There are ideas there, and it's Star Wars and all that, but it is kind of what people of that perspective had been craving of. big action. Watch Mace Windu use the Force in cool ways to take out huge armadas of battle droids. You know, it was the part of Star Wars that is power fantasy is an element of that Clone Wars. Gennady Tartakovsky, and I think that's why it connected with a lot of people of our age and bias.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Jen, what your relationship with it is, because I don't think you were on those episodes we discussed it, but I think you're really right, Joseph. There's a lot of stuff that's the elements are there, and I look back now and I'm like, those aren't my favorite elements, but it doesn't mean I don't enjoy them being there. They're really fun too.
Yeah, did you enjoy them, Jen? Did you feel like this is what I've been craving?
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say for Clone Wars. My first introduction was that I can never pronounce his name. Tartakovsky, right? Cartoon Network micro series.
Yeah.
That to me was because I was not a really big fan of the prequels at the time, and I felt a little bit of Star Wars fatigue. And then I had a friend who had a watch party, and he had, like, I don't know, must have had DVDs, or I don't know what he had, but basically we sat down and we watched the whole series. And I was like, this is my Star Wars. This is what I want. I had been really getting into like anime. I just thought it was so stylized. Felt very much like Nelvana, right? That kind of like very stylistic animation style. It just felt badass. It was me. Like, I was an adult now, or almost adult, right? And so, yeah. And so it actually took me longer to get into the Clone Wars that we know, Dave Filoni's Clone Wars and George Lucas's Clone Wars, because I just was so drawn to the other one. You know?
Yeah,
you're not alone on that. There's a lot of people at the time.
Yeah,
and very fresh.
Yeah, and if you're curious, go check out our the discussions that Ken and I had. They're I think like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. Time moves in ways that I cannot measure. But I do want to be sure to say, like, I do think there are big ideas there, but it was also just let's really put action forward as well, and I think that made a difference in people's response. Which leads us into the I was going to say the modern Clone Wars, from 2008. But Clone Wars, the Lucas's 3D animated Clone Wars really kicked this new era of animation into high gear. We've discussed our relationship with that Clone Wars in the past, but Ken, when did it really hook you, and why did that show become important to your fandom?
Yeah, it went in phases. I think when it first launched, I was hooked by the action, and the Malevolence arc is, this wonderful high Star Wars space fantasy action. There's a lot of other big things and ideas going on in there, as we've discovered looking back, but I wasn't engaging with that. I didn't look for that. I just was home on a Friday night, and some friends had said, "Oh, you should check this out." 3 years removed from Revenge of the Sith, and even though I'm always been a Star Wars fan, like you, Jen, and Joseph at the time too, like working through what I thought about that era and working through what Star Wars meant to me at that time. And it didn't mean as much. It was that period of time where it was like, okay, other things going on. Which is funny because it was like also like 1988, right? It was just 20 years later. But other things going on. Baseball cards. But the action, and it just felt right. We can never deny it. And that's even what you were talking about with the 2002 microservice Clone Wars. Like, that kind of Star Wars badass action is built into it. That's why we went to the playgrounds and played with it. That's why we had the toys and we're flying around and making zoom sounds and speeder bike sounds. So all that stuff was there, and I was hooked. It wasn't until later, because I faded in and out of seasons like 2 and 3 and 4, just weren't watching them as much or trying to catch up with them. I can't remember if they were available anywhere. I don't even know if I had anywhere to make them available to myself. I don't think I had Netflix till later. So even when they showed up, that was the first time I had access to them on demand. Mortis was really cool, but I didn't really care to get it. It was just like, that was weird, but I liked it. It was season 5, which is, ironically the last one that we had at the time, was when it ramped up, and you couldn't. I mean, I guess you could, but you couldn't ignore what it meant. The Pong Krell and stuff going on like that, and the Ahsoka arc at the end, like it now had a weight to it. Dare I say, a gravitas that was always there. Perhaps the show did grow, as we know, but that's when I was like, okay, this is essential. This is essential to my fandom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you, Jennifer? When did this version of Clone Wars kick in for you?
I used to watch it because I knew that a lot of my friends online were watching it. So I was like, oh, I'll try getting into it. And I enjoyed it. And I really liked Ahsoka from the beginning. I was always an Ahsoka fan. I had no problem with her. But it's one of those things where it was hard for me to keep up, right? And it was still like, I was feeling weird. I'm like, well, I'm an adult, but I also do enjoy animation. And at times it did feel like a little bit, and I don't want to say a kid's show, right? But there was a part of me that was like, it's a little bit of a kid's show. And then I went to the Egyptian Theater I've talked about this ad nauseum about for a Clone Wars screening where Katie Lucas was there for the Dathomir episodes. And there were some kids there, but it was primarily adults. And I watched that and I was terrified in this darkened theater. And we had done like a Q&A with these kids doing trivia questions. And let me tell you, never go up against a 6 or 7 year old who knows Star Wars. Those kids.
Never.
No.
Oh my gosh. Put us to shame. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, there are children here and I am terrified. And you hear like these sounds, right? And just Katie Lucas was just so rad. And I'm like, okay, I'm back in. This is great Star Wars storytelling. And it felt so different. And then I was like, I don't like the Tartakovsky ones anymore. Because look at how they're portraying Asajj Ventress here. No, but I love both. Anyways, yeah, it was really fun. And that did everything. That changed everything for me.
Yeah, I'll try to keep a little bit this short because I've told it many times on ForceCenter, but sometimes in an exaggerated way. You know, there's that meme of somebody at a concert with the cardboard that says "Your music saved me." Like I sometimes want to be like, "This animation show saved me." With Clone Wars, in terms of just like some of my fandom, it had been up and down. There were things that I loved about the prequels, and there's things that bothered me about the prequels, and I didn't have anybody really to engage with the parts of the prequels that I thought were really interesting and found myself thinking about. And I went to the theater in 2008 and saw the Clone Wars animated series, and at the time, now I love it because I see everything it's setting up, but at the time it feels like I was kind of ready for the next chapter, and we're still, agitating over Anakin's fall and the shadow over him, and I didn't understand where the Hutt voice was coming from. I know now that it's the Truman Capote impression. At the time, I was like, "What is that voice?" I don't even know why, but I'm offended. I don't even know what it is, but it feels like I shouldn't be hearing it. Like it was.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like, "Oh boy." It's such a mix of like it felt like the prequels again. Like there's this stuff I love, but stuff that I'm really challenged by. I wasn't challenged by Ahsoka. Anyway, I didn't watch the show for a long time because I didn't have cable. But finally, early on when I moved here to Los Angeles, it was all on Netflix up through. They had just released the Netflix sponsored season 6, and I binged the hell out of it. And it was the moment where I was like, wait, there's far more of the prequels that I love than I ever thought. And all of it is in this show. It is the character relationships. It is the nuance of Anakin's fall. It is the importance of the political story with following Padme and how important she is and how many things in the prequel era would have gone better for the entire galaxy if people had listened to Padme. It is this daring exploration of the new. It's an anything goes in my sandbox attitude from Lucas, up to a point, obviously, but just being so. The show is bold, weird, deeply emotional, unabashedly pulp, and it felt like a weird secret. Like this is what Star Wars can be. This is what I wanted in 1985 when I was watching Ewoks and Droids. It can be the classic characters, it can be cool lightsaber fights, but it can also be weird monsters like the Zillo Beast. It can be entire episodes of political intrigue with Padme. It can be anything. It just really exploded my mind and really made me go, I love the prequel era from the aesthetics to the ideas, and I'm going to stop resisting it and examine some of my previous biases and where they come from.
That's huge. Yeah. We won't make this all about the Clone Wars. I forgot. Even to mention the movie, which I did not see in theater, but that was a stumbling block for a lot of us. The voices, all those kind of things. I totally get it. It's amazing to go back and look now and how much I actually just really enjoyed that movie. It's
I love it now. It's great great action, everything that's going on between Ahsoka and their great Obi-Wan beats. Anyway, I love it now. I didn't understand what it was doing.
Yeah.
Before we move on from Clone Wars, part of the reason that I wanted to talk about it is to kind of set the stage for what we have valued in animation as we look forward. And I stumbled upon this interview between George Lucas and Conan O'Brien years ago, but I finally found it as just a meme that boils it down to, it takes all the ums and ahs out, but it's what they actually said. And this is about the Clone Wars. And I think, to me, it explains a lot of the Clone Wars success. So Conan O'Brien says, "You're doing a Star Wars television show now." And George Lucas says, "Yeah, it's an animated series about the Clone Wars. It's very much Star Wars. It's not a South Park comedy. It's not a kiddie SpongeBob SquarePants. It's sort of the first dramatic animated show that is PG-13. So it doesn't really go on late night. It doesn't go on Saturday afternoon. It actually doesn't go anywhere." And then Conan O'Brien turns to the audience and says, "Excellent marketing strategy. You'll love it and you'll never see it."
Love Conan. Love Conan.
Very funny, very, very George Lucas. I say one thing and then I kind of take it back. But to me, what it illustrates is the man put his own money into it, right? As he always did. He was not going to get the permission from a bunch of gatekeepers to shape a Star Wars animated show. He just did exactly what he wanted. And it is weird. It does sit absolutely awkwardly between, like, there's some episodes that do feel like, oh yeah, this is a nice moral for kids. We just watched Cad Bane slaughter 13 people we care about. The Night Sisters are terrifying. It is odd. It doesn't really have a place. But I think that sort of artistic integrity of, I'm going to make exactly what I want, is part of what gave the Clone Wars power. Ken, how do you feel about that? The fact that George Lucas just went off and did something that, like, doesn't fit into an established place for animation is an awkward mix, in my opinion, between being absolutely for kids and absolutely for adults. Is that a part of the power of the Clone Wars to you?
I think in the end, yeah, it is so unique in its own way. I love that description. I do remember that interview, but you can focus on the Conan joke, as I have for years. But to hear him just go like, yeah, it's kind of it's a drama, the first in its class, the first to market, as they say when a restaurant comes to town that's never been there, right? It's doing what it wants, and I think I respect that more and more and more, just like the prequels. Doesn't mean it's always going to be perfect. You're right, and the tone shifts can sometimes be jarring. I still have friends who are like, yeah, I'm trying. I gave it a go. Then I got to insert whatever episode, and there's several to choose from where they just like, I just didn't get it. I just don't know why. And I think that's okay. And I think it's fine for the show to just be like, this is what we are. And that's very George, obviously. And maybe now even very Dave. But yeah, it's I don't know. I just celebrate. It's hard. Sometimes when I'm having those conversations, it's hard to explain why you should like brainworms and witches and frog military leaders.
Military, oh my gosh. Oh.
Yep. So moving forward from Clone Wars, animation has been huge in the Disney Lucasfilm era, building off of the artistic success of the Clone Wars, in my opinion. But we've of course had Rebels, which is a huge fan converter. A lot of people's entry into Star Wars. We have the short-lived Star Wars Resistance that many people love. Of course, Bad Batch going now. We've got the Visions series. We've got Tales of the Jedi. We have a lot of stuff that's different attempts to hook younger viewers. The Young Jedi Adventures, Forces of Destiny, Galaxy of Adventures. We have had multiple Star Wars Lego shows and specials. Ken, for you, what is all of this animation that has been rich in the Disney Lucasfilm era? What does it add to the Star Wars galaxy, and why is animation such a good match for this storytelling?
I think it's a bit of a gear shift in how it's presented, and then in that gear shift, like, hey, a little something different. We're gonna go down here to this direction, and then you can do something that is so specifically for children, like the Adventures of Nubs or the Young Jedi Adventures, which I have to catch up on. I have to admit, I trailed off. Forces of Destiny, all that kind of stuff. So you can do that, and in a weird way, get away with things more that maybe you wouldn't be able to do, and you can narrow focus on this particular part of the audience. And then for the rest of us, I think this is what the Clone Wars 3D animation series, animated series, did, is it established we can go back. We can go back to a time period that maybe even you don't think you liked, and we're just going to play with that, and we're going to play that world. We're going to build it out, and it's not that we're going to make it better, as maybe even I've said before in my past, drunk at a Comic-Con. It is about we've got this world. We're going to play around with it, and we're going to be able to do things that maybe you would if you saw it in live action. Like this Purgle is a great example. If those whales debuted in live action, I think there would have been a big wall up to people. But because they were animated first, and then now they're live action, and even I've seen some, I know some people who've seen them in live action first who are a little like, what's with the whales? Get it. But because they're real, you can imagine it more. It's just this different palette. It's this different way to paint. And that's what I think I really appreciate about it.
Yeah. How about you, Jennifer?
I think that's such an excellent point. And I think it's they push the envelope. And look, we talked about, I think on the live stream, about how the animated show, specifically Clone Wars, really experimented with genres. And I think that's the great thing about these animated series is that you have more episodes, therefore you have more time to try things out. I mean, as we've talked about, look at the evolution of Snips, of Ahsoka's character. You introduce that character in live action. Some fans would go crazy and say she's the worst Star Wars character ever. And people did say that on animation, but it's like she was able to evolve. She was able to grow. With live action, you have 8 episodes to achieve what you want to achieve. So certain things, they can't really have as much fun, have as much play, right? Go wild. And that's why we got, like you're saying, Ken, the Purgles, is because they're just like, hey, how about whales in space? But can you imagine, I cannot imagine them introducing that in live action for the first time. It's almost too weird. Although that's why I do like Gorian Shard, right? Because it's weird.
Yeah.
Jennifer, did you know that a thumbs down just appeared on your screen?
Oh my gosh, no. What?
I don't know. I
saw something. Who are you? Ghost?
I don't know what program you got running, but it was really rude. It was like the screen was disagreeing with what you were saying, so I couldn't ignore it. I'm sorry. So yeah.
I'm so offended.
I didn't see it because I was looking off dreaming of space whales, Star whales.
You're like, no to space pirates.
If it had been a thumbs up, I wouldn't have said anything. But you said Gorian Shard and something appeared on your screen. It's like, oh, great. Now we got to hear criticism from screens.
Am I wrong?
The humans behind them.
Am
I
wrong character name? Like, oh my gosh, species? What?
But you were making a great point of Gorian Shard, I think, and a lot of what we're seeing in live action in The Mandalorian and obviously Ahsoka, since a lot of it comes directly from animation with the Purgles. But we're seeing, I think, the spirit of animation make the jump to live action. And to me, that's part of the value and part of the reason I wanted to talk about Clone Wars before moving forward is I think animation is exploration. In animation, like you're both saying, you, in theory, can spend a longer time with characters, which builds a devotion. Obviously, movies can accomplish that. People kind of like that Luke, Han, and Leia. And for the most part, they were in movies and comic books and a couple books, and people fell in love with them. Obviously, you can fall in love with people, but there is a different relationship when you feel like you're walking a long road with Ahsoka or Ezra, and you are growing up with them in real time. And I think that happened for both Clone Wars and Rebels. They were on long enough that I'm sure there are kids who tuned into Rebels, and by the time they get to the 3rd year and Ezra's a little bit more grown up and has a new haircut, so do they. And they were in junior high and now they're starting high school and they're walking in the same thing with Ahsoka. I think one of the things I love greatly about Clone Wars is it just had the elbow room to spend more time with Anakin is a great hero, is a loving older brother figure, is a friend of Obi-Wan. Animation can explore those characters, and then it can explore the heightened reality of Star Wars. The original trilogy and the prequel era, in the prequel trilogy, I think, are very pulpy and very weird. And then there's a little caution through the years in live action that I think animation has exploded. Like you're saying with Ken, with and again, that goes back to the Clone Wars of nothing's off the table. The Night Sisters started in publishing, but Here they are in live screen. Here's the Zilla Beast. Here's the Brainworms. Here's the Frog military guy. Anything in it, Maul can come back and don't worry about it too much. He just did. You know, turns out, what does Mandalore look like? People have wondered for years. It's a Cubist painting by Picasso. There you go. There's such a sense of creativity and spirit and exploration. And I think animation was really responsible for that. And I feel like it is translating into a lot of the live action that we're getting now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Gorian Shard's a good example, Chad, of just that's a cartoon character come to life. And I think and the generations that are, obviously come up behind us and the Clone Wars generation, like to them, it's old hat. Yeah. Weird moss face guy would have been season 3 Clone Wars. Yeah.
Yep.
Season 2 Rebels.
Yep. There's some stuff that Mandalorian too, I think. Well, he is from Mandalorian. You would have. Anyway, so moving on to the era we're finding ourselves in. Obviously, all of Star Wars is connected. It's always looking forward and back at the same time. But Jennifer, do you feel like Bad Batch wrapping up what the Clone Wars started? Is this in some ways an end of an era to have the story of the clones wrap up?
I mean, it's a great way of putting it. It's interesting because I feel like it's such a very active fan base. And so I can't imagine that this would be the end. Maybe it is. I mean, it certainly, I guess, feels like that. Come back to me when I finished catching up with Bad Batch, and then I'll have that emotional weight. I think that will help.
No, that makes sense. How do you feel about it, Ken? Do you feel like the Bad Batch might be sort of wrapping up in an era of storytelling?
I do, and I think that's why the show has grown in importance. And try not to spoil anything, Janice. I want you to
that's
finish
okay.
the
You
second
can spoil.
season. No, just where it's going and the big themes of even stuff we talked about last week on the show of how they're dealing with the clones. Not just what happened with the clones, but who are those clones as they're dealing with this and being destroyed and targeted and pushed out after they were built and bred for war. It just all seems to be like cool. We had that era, and we're just kind of, this is truly, it's this emotional transition to the stories that follow on the timeline. Doesn't mean you can't go back. Doesn't mean with a series like Tales of the Jedi or whatever volumes might come out of that going forward. Like you could absolutely go back to the time period. You can go back to the animation style and presentation, but it just seems emotionally this is kind of the end of an era.
Yeah, it's really well sifted through. I don't think that animation style is going away. They have it all up and running. They've been using it for Tales of the Jedi. It might continue to be a little bit of the house style. Who knows? I don't think it's the end of hearing stories about individual clones. The next animated series could be, Rex, Wolf and Gregor having weird adventures. Who knows? We could have a series that's just the clones who remain fighting in the Galactic Civil War. Who knows? But what is striking me on a deeply emotional note is the clones don't have much room to be examined in the prequel films. In Attack the Clones, it's a failure that they exist. And that's the end note of it's sadness. It's Bail Organa, hitting his fist sadly on the balcony. You get a little bit of the sort of the tragedy of them turning by having a little bit of that relationship between Obi-Wan and Cody in Revenge of the Sith. But the first episode of the Clone Wars after the movie is Yoda, our wise person that we listen to and we believe what he says. He's a trusted voice telling the clones they're all unique and establishing like they're not cannon fodder. They're not meat puppets. They are unique in the Force. And from that moment, there's like this responsibility toward them of we have started telling a story where we're asking you, the audience, to value them. Where is their story going to end? And I think that's the way it's feeling for me of the animated Clone Wars that Filoni got to wrap up with season 7 ties off, Ahsoka and Anakin's journey during the Clone Wars period. And it's got some amount of resolution for Rex. But the clones as a whole, as a group, this show is so much like not justice for the clones, but like respect for the clones. and I continue to feel like Bad Batch's season 3 is going to examine the specific clones that we know, but it's also going to be, how does their overall story end as a group of people that exist, the clones? So that's why I'm feeling like it's kind of wrapping up an era of what Clone Wars started. But I also think Star Wars is always looking forward and back at the same time. So who knows what maybe Keller and Beck will appear in this, and who knows what seeds for the future will be planted in Bad Batch season 3.
Yeah, but my final thought is you kind of touched on it. It's like this was a series starring the clones. Clone Wars did not star the clones; it had them in there featuring. But that's part of the joy of the Bad Batch for the Bad Batchers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start talking about the future here. We'll talk about multiple possibilities of what might be next for Star Wars animation, but I want to start with one that we've talked about before and many other fans have discussed. It often comes up first if you put a question out there of like, what do you want to see next in animation? And that is the possibility of a show focusing on the Jedi adventures of Luke Skywalker after the events of Return of the Jedi, focusing on Luke, but perhaps a young Ben Solo is also there. Perhaps his Luke's relic hunting buddy, Lor Santeca. Perhaps Luke's functioning Jedi Academy that we read about in the comic book Rise of Kylo Ren. Jennifer, do you want an Adventures of Luke Skywalker animated show? And if so, why?
I don't. I did a little bit of research yesterday. I did a little bit of research, and let me tell you, this is a landmine. You have fans online who have very specific ideas about what this show should be about. Mara Jade should return. We got to show how Luke became so disillusioned and grumpy. Like, we need these answers. There's just a lot. There's a lot of questions that they want answered. And I think that would take away some of the fun of the show. I think it'd be great. I'd be open to whatever they want to do. But I do think it's a little tricky with fan expectations. And not to say that like they should care, right? But at the same time, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think I find myself this morning, I don't know why, I am filled with the spirit of George Lucas as the rebel in flannel.
I love it.
I'm a fan. I want there to be an understanding of, hey, this thing will really upset fans. Sure, be aware of that, but at the same time, everything George Lucas has ever done has been in the spirit of, I'm telling this story. I knew you were going to hate Jar Jar. I didn't think you were going to hate him that much, but I knew you were going to. This is the person who called the working draft of Attack the Clones Jar Jar's Big Adventure or whatever. Starting the Clone Wars 3D animated series, he could have made it all cool Jedi and clones and Anakin brooding, and he's like, no. And I know some of you aren't going to like that. I know some of you aren't going to like that he has a Padawan because you think that's not right. And I know you're not going to like it being a young woman. Too bad. I know you're not going to like a whole episode of Jar Jar, saving the day by being klutzy.
Yeah.
Too bad. My money, my ideas, my flannel. And I'm not advocating for anybody disrespecting the fans, but I think what the Clone Wars to me demonstrated is with all of the storytelling possibilities, with Maul coming back, with there's parts of Obi-Wan that you don't know, that Anakin had a Padawan. To me, the legacy of Clone Wars is there's more storytelling there than we think based just on the information we have in movies. So I totally agree with you that it's a landmine, but I think Star Wars could use a little bit of we're telling the story we want to tell.
But don't you think that that's like almost not impossible, but everything is so driven by the algorithm and like, what do the fans want and all this stuff? It feels like things have totally shifted in our industry, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if they would even do the Clone Wars. Like, part of the reason why they did it was because George was like, F it. Like you're saying, I am doing it my way, right?
Yeah.
I don't know and I know that, Dave Filoni, he has his own ideas and stuff like that, but I don't know if they would push the envelope like they did and just totally disregard fan expectations. I think that they're a little bit more conscious of that now.
I think they are, and I mean the fan expectations it's a really delicate thing to me, because like with the Tales of the Jedi, with like Filoni revising some of Ahsoka's story in a way that erased gay characters. Like I think be aware that fans really love the publishing, and be aware of those expectations. I think things like I'm fine with being aware of things like that. But the idea of fans have already made up the story and that it should be Mara Jade.
Right.
No, then let's just write by consensus. Then let's just put Uncle Bob sends an email to every Star Wars fan and we get to vote. That's my concern of like it. And when we get down to the brass tacks of it, in just like Hollywood reality, the question for me of could it be more like the Clone Wars? The question is, how much power does Filoni really have?
Right.
And it's a delicate, specific thing. I am of the opinion that Favreau has a lot of power because he doesn't need to do Star Wars. He has made Disney millions of dollars doing non-Star Wars things. He could make indie cookie movies for the rest of his life and win Academy Awards. He has the power to go make blockbusters. Uncle Bob can tell Favreau what to do, but there's a little bit more of a dance. He has power. And there's a question of, and we're going to talk about more of like, what does Disney want out of an animated show? But if it really is just like, we want more storytelling. We want to get younger people excited about this era. We want to be able to sell some new Luke Skywalker merchandise. That's what we want from a business numbers perspective out of it. Dave, we trust you. Do whatever you want. I think there's a possibility that world exists. Ken, how do you feel about all of this sort of like managing landmines? Because I do agree with you, Jennifer. I don't mean any of my vitriol.
No.
It's the ideas. Like, how do you feel about it all?
Look, I'm with Jen on the real malaise that can sometimes attach itself to my soul on some of the Star Wars stuff. Even the conversations about a what if series in Star Wars. I don't want it simply because I'm gonna I'll remove every social media app from my phone and just that's it. We're done. I'm off. Maybe I'll go to Threads where no one is. I just don't want to be around for those conversations, right? And I think there's some it's real and I have to own it. I try to own it when I can. About that's a great idea. I just don't want to deal with what fans are going to be saying or what I'm going to hear in a bar from friends. But also, I'm with you, Joseph, on I think this Disney era it's been both heavily researched and R&D and demographics and testing, and it's obviously they're trying for 4 quadrants. I totally get the business of it, but I also think it's been really super creative and gone to places where it wants to go. I mean, Mandalorian itself, you said it. I mean, that's why I always go to chapter 2 of Mando with that episode with the off-world Jawas and Rook Family US directing, where it's like, they're doing something. Okay, I got it. I'm in, because I wasn't sure if I was in after week 1, but now I'm in. So I think it's possible. It's going back to what you're saying, Jen, sometimes the frustration, I feel like, even just the last year or so, again, and these aren't the nameless, faceless trolls. These are people I've had to work with or friends with, or who just are convinced. I had a job this past year at a YouTube channel. Everyone there was convinced that, they put Grogu in Book of Boba Fett because Kathleen Kennedy ordered that. And these are completely reasoned people in and out of this bit. I'm like, that's not the case. It's not the case. You can't prove that. There's nothing. That's a theory. That's a theory you have that you're now putting into a million views video. That's wrong. And it just, so it's like the frustration with that versus, so it's like, I'd love them to be, I got in kind of a debate over the Jack Black Lizzo episode this past week with a friend. It was just like, that was not what we wanted. Like that's not about what you wanted. So I would love them to plant a flag and Luke and Ben and Lore and Santek and all that stuff, and let's just do it. Let's just do what we want. And I think they can. I think they will more than not. But yeah, I feel your pain, Jen, on that. If that makes sense.
Thank you. That was the Star Wars counseling.
Yeah, I feel the pain as well. But I think going back to my reaction in 2008 of seeing the Clone Wars animated series, I didn't know where it was going, and I didn't understand, and I was locked into my perspective where I was ready for Star Wars to move on from the story of Anakin and Obi-Wan. And if George Lucas has sent me a poll saying, should I do this? Or should I do or should I do the underworld of Coruscant? I would be like, ooh, to the underworld, George, to the underworld. And obviously he was going to, but I would have deprived myself with my dumb vote of what the creator knew was interesting to them in that time frame and in that spot. So I think that's part of the reason, part of where I'm coming from. I think also, I'm a fan. I'm not saying you should entirely ignore fan thoughts too. But do you guys remember when Daniel Craig was hired to be James Bond in Casino Royale, and he was blonde, and Bond has almost always been svelte but muscled underneath, because he's he was never a big bruiser like Daniel Craig was. He was never blonde. And then there's reports keep coming out about Blondie, little delicate Blondie hurt himself on set again, and people were just laughing, and they knew that he was going to be the worst Bond ever, that Casino Royale was a joke. And then smash cut to people's jaws dropped of like, yeah, he hurt himself on the set because he was breaking through walls, because he was going so hard, because he's, I just think of all sorts of things like that, if people are certain they want a thing, and they're not in the process. They're like, so anyway, I think there are probably people out there who just, they think it should be Mara Jade. But if a new Jedi Order show did for the sequel era what the Clone Wars did for the prequel era, which opened people up to examining the movies in a different way, or even they didn't like the movies, but they like this thing because it answered more of their questions. Like, I know people who they're never going to like the prequels, but they like the Anakin of Clone Wars, and that's a great thing too. So yeah, a lot of history there. For myself, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ken.
Oh no, you were taking me back to 2006, 5 too, where Daniel Craig, a blonde Bond was the rancor around that was amazing.
Yes, people were very certain, and that kind of online certainty has only got that you make a snap judgment of something, and people are utterly certain.
Michael Keaton as Batman was another big one.
Yes, people were sure that was a disaster, and now years later, he's the deeply beloved. So I think for myself, I love the sequel trilogy. I don't need anything fixed. The Clone Wars animated series ultimately doesn't fix the prequels to me. It adds to them. It expands them and gives them nuance in additional layers of richness. I've loved Luke Skywalker since I was, just about since I was born, practically. I think there's room to show stories of his victories. We are not defined just by the worst thing that's happened to us. If Anakin's story was only the prequel films, we only get to spend a tiny amount of time as a true charming hero. I really want that time to spend with Luke where things are going well and he makes a difference and he keeps the balance in the Force. And just because Ben Solo falls eventually doesn't mean there isn't tons of great storytelling to spend with Han and Leia's son, who's just sitting right there. And we, to me, for me as a fan, the appeal of just spending more time with these characters, with an era where Luke's school is going well, and where as many things as we discovered in the Clone Wars, as Ahsoka, as Anakin's Padawan, as Obi-Wan had a love interest, all those kind of things that, like, there's room to tell those stories. How much room is there to tell more and more stories of the good, the bad, the ups and downs of Luke in Ben Solo? When people look at Anakin now, he isn't just a tragedy. He's a hero. He's a favorite. Because we got to spend lots of time with him as a hero. And I think it might change the way a lot of people feel about Luke and Ben, to spend more time with them in some of their good days.
Yeah, look, Hayden coming back and the warmth behind. Oh, there's a lot of reasons for the warmth behind Hayden coming back, but that moment with Ahsoka was powerful for a reason, for the reasons you're describing. Yeah, look, I've wanted a Luke and Lor Santeca Pawn Stars Around the Galaxy, show since 2015, right? When it was when the first kind of visual dictionary comes out, and you're like, what? Oh, Lord, this and that, and so I think it would do exactly what you described, Joseph, where it's like, I think probably like 2010 or 11, I probably said the words, the Clone Wars series fixes a lot of the prequels problems. It's I understand that from the surface, but when you really stop and break that down, it's like, what's it fixing? It's literally just fixing your connection to something that was already there. It was that era was already built. The prequel stories and the world was already there. The broken thing was my connection. The show didn't fix the movies. The show was like, hey, all that's there. Did you miss it? Do you want to spend more time with it? Do you want to explore it more? Come in here. And I think that's what a series like this could do. And I would look forward to that. And maybe pushing through some of the darkness that would definitely be around it.
Yeah.
To get to the other side.
It also has plenty of, again, that Rise of Kylo Ren comic book. He's got a functional Jedi school, and he's sending Jedi out on missions. There's so much room to introduce new characters. I know Asajj started in the Gennady Tartakovsky, but look at the Clone Wars animated series of Hondo, Asajj, Embo. It introduced us to all these characters, and it isn't necessarily just the idea of Luke and Ben. It's also like there are plenty of characters to meet that we haven't met yet who could exist in that era.
Totally.
So, final question, and then we'll take a break and talk more about other possibilities. This is only going to make the discourse wars more difficult. This question, but Ken, if the show happened, would you want Mark Hamill and Adam Driver to reprise their voice roles, or like the Clone Wars, would you be interested in a different interpretation, or do you just not care?
No, I would love it. It'd be a lot of fun. I think Mark would do it. I think you'd have to drive a Brinks truck up to Adam's house to make him do it. But aside from that, I would love to do it. But I think if it's new voices, I think it would just open up the possibility even more, where you wouldn't be, because again, remember when Luke showed up in Forces Destiny and Mark Hamill voiced him there, and you had weeks of, well, it didn't. He's old now. Like yes, of course. Well, now we'll use respeecher, and then you'll hate that too. So it's like, just bring in someone else. Find the James Arnold Taylor and Matt Lanter of this era. And maybe it's that, but someone else.
Jennifer, what are your thoughts? Does this also raise your discourse alarms?
Oh yeah, I mean, because if you bring Mark back, then the whole conversation is going to be around Mark Hamill, right? And like, if you don't bring him back, though, you also get some like, well, why didn't you bring this legendary voice actor to the show, right? And Mark even might comment about why they never asked me, and then Kathleen Kennedy. So,
Mark, God bless Mark. He would do one of those tweets where he's just being like honest and kind of goofy, and then it would just be weeks and weeks of articles.
Exactly. He's just being like, this nice man. So anyways, recast it. Just recast it. Adam Driver's not coming back. It just start fresh, I guess. So that if the focus is on the show itself and the story, as opposed to the drama, ridiculous drama that's made up.
Yeah. I think for me, I just like, yes, I am fine. Whatever they do, if it works for a budget and Mark and Adam want to do it, great. That I'm happy as a Star Wars fan. What fun. But if not, I go to the Clone Wars example of that. To a lot of people, those actors are Obi-Wan and Anakin, and they're happy to get pictures of Matt Lanter meeting Hayden Christensen, and it's a joyful thing. And if it could happen before, it can happen again. We've talked a lot recently about the possibility of recasting legacy characters. I also just think in a story that is ongoing and jumps around in time, I love all of the original performers and want to celebrate them and honor them, but I also love the characters, and I want the characters to be able to live on, which sometimes means allowing multiple interpretations. Not Mark Hamill is fired, there's a new Luke Skywalker. Multiple interpretations is the way I look at it.
Indeed.
All right. If you are listening on the podcast, we are going to take a quick break. If you're watching on video, we'll be blip and be back in a moment. But we have a ForceCenter recommends, right, Ken?
We do. ForceCenter recommends for all of you to check out, and we think you should still check out Dark Disciple by Christy Golden, a book that is rising in the rankings thanks to all the discussions this week. And I've been loving Christy tweeting out, going, yeah, don't worry. And also, look at these numbers. Good for her. She's very sweet. Had the pleasure of interviewing her a number of years ago. So check out Dark Disciple by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. That's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter to get your free audio book. All right. On that note, we will take that break and be right back here on ForceCenter. Or right here in video, we are back. We're here. We never left. I didn't even get a chance to freshen up my coffee. We're still here on video, and Joseph having a discussion about the future of Star Wars animation.
That is right. So we talked about the one that comes up a lot, the idea of a Luke Skywalker Jedi Academy show. We talked about the various challenges, the excitements. Ken, what other era or idea would you be interested in for a central animated show like Clone Wars and Rebels? And I make that distinction because I like Star Wars Resistance, but it didn't run as long, and I don't feel like it made as much of an impact in the fandom. I know there are people out there who love it. I loved it. Team Peep it forever. And then a lot of the other things we've had have been designed to be short-lived or bite-sized or not canon, like the Visions. So if there was another, we're committed to this, a minimum of 3 seasons. I'll throw Bad Batch in there because it feels substantive like this. What show like that would you want?
I go to this New Republic era we're in and the establishment of that, and how big this war with Thrawn, and who knows what exactly is going to happen with that. Is there room to discover more there? I do like the I'm a fan of Star Wars Resistance. It is a show that was overlooked, is underrated. It's got some great things. It's got some things that maybe aren't as great for you. Great, love it. But the premise of Star Wars Resistance, which when it first was announced, and I was like, great, we're getting into some of the actual fighting. Like, and I don't need just that cool fighting action, but just Leia and her team versus the growing threat of the First Order versus the New Republic's malaise and apathy towards, like, we got something there. We felt that, but we felt it over here, which I think was the right decision, right? Let's just form, Cheers works because it's 1 bar, not 15 in the area around Boston. So that works for me. But now you could do that, again, talking about what you're talking about, the Clone Wars. Rebels was spectacular, but it still even was just this one thing, but it got, as it expanded and connected with the other groups. So therefore I think you could even go back, if you're not going to find a way to get Aaron Kellyman back as Enfys Nest in live action, doing an animation. I'd follow the Cloud Riders around, and that could almost be like that era, if there's stuff you want to do with, Kira and all those organizations and everything that Crimson Dawn and everything, go for it too. But explore the underworld a little bit there and explore the growing rebellion from that point of view.
Ooh, that's good. I changed my answer. I want that. That's really.
Well, I don't know. I might want your answer.
Yeah. What are your other thoughts, Jennifer?
Well, I go to the High Republic because I'm so behind on the books. This could be a way for me to catch up, like my Cliff Notes. And I just think it's like kind of really fertile ground, right? It's really, and it's a way to get new people on board. Like, hey, you haven't read the books. That's okay. This is a Cliff Notes version of what happened in the books, or I don't know. And it also kind of maybe could not set up Acolyte because it would probably come out afterwards, but it could be an extension of like the excitement around Acolyte. So I don't know. I think it could be really interesting, especially because I don't know really anything about it.
It was this publishing initiative, and as an Acolyte, Leslie Headland didn't pitch it as a High Republic. It just happened to fall in the air, and then it's kind of become that in Vanessa Rogue, that connection. But to actually have, I think a show is more possible than ever now.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think there's a lot of different ways to approach it. I think this came up as a question on our live stream this past Friday, and the comments were filled with ideas. One of them repeatedly being the High Republic. There's so many different ways to take it, because you could do it with some of the characters that people have met in publishing, but at a timeline that the publishing era didn't cover. You could follow Jedi and non-Jedi. You got pirates, you got scoundrels, you got government officials, you got all the normal Star Wars characters. You could follow ones that we have never met but are affected by the major events of the publishing initiative. So it's sort of like, hey, if you want to read more about this disaster, you can go read it here or whatever. There's lots of different ways to take and interpret a High Republic era. And you could have, adult nubs show up, since the Young Jedi Adventures is. I want grizzled, world-weary nubs to show up.
Oh my gosh.
In Clone Wars animation style.
Cynical nubs. Oh no.
Cynical nubs. Yeah. Yeah. I also thought, I think one of the other things that people had said in our live chat is sort of like, well, if Solo 2 isn't going to happen in live action, and it's a little bit what you're talking about, Ken, sort of the possibility of almost like a, in the era of serial, is sort of almost like a Scoundrels show where I don't know if what Clone Wars did, where like Anakin, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Rex are the main characters, but also it's totally an anthology, and Padme too, and 5 episodes with R2 and a frog guy. If that is, I don't know if anybody, I think that would challenge audiences' expectations these days, Jen, to your point.
Yeah.
But if you did a Scoundrels show and like Han, Lando are kind of the main characters, but then we get a Kira arc and an Enfys Nest arc, that would be cool to me.
That'd be great.
And it could be really pitched as like, here's just some wild pirate fun, wild scoundrel fun. Here's a weird mission that Han, wild pirate fun. Here's a mission that Jabba sends Han on. Lots of Han to watch, lots of Maz Kanata. Like there's so many characters who exist in that world who are trying to Dr. Aftra, trying to scrape by in that era during the Imperial times.
Yeah, Afra's a great name to bring up. She's got so many stories and adventures in the comics and books. But that's a character I think needs to make the jump to a lot of other mediums.
Yeah. My other wild idea is whatever our new to us galaxy is in Ahsoka, the Peridia galaxy. You could also do an animated show set there at any time with any. You could really prove like, here's how large the sandbox of Star Wars can be. As long as it's kind of in the sort of thematic morality perspective guardrails that were important to Lucas and that Filoni has been really carrying the torch of. That's about it. Otherwise, make up whatever you want whenever in the timeline is really exciting.
That's a possibility.
Jennifer, would that be exciting to you, or would that feel like it's I got to meet all these new people?
I mean, yeah, it seems so vast and overwhelming. I wouldn't even know where to begin, and I do wonder how they would market that. Like that's kind of a tough one.
Well, it'd be a fascinating torture test because talking about the discourse, lots of people have been fed up with IP, with remakes, with continuations, with legacy characters. That would be a fascinating way to test that. Do you really mean it? Because the hook of this Star Wars is you truly know nothing. Maybe they have a version of a lightsaber, and they have access to the Force because the Force is universal. It's not limited by galaxy. But besides that, you said you wanted new, do you? Would be very interesting.
Call her bluff.
Yeah, the newest of the new. Yeah, I've always had that thought too of people. I just want new. I want new, and I really agree with that. And something like Mandalorian comes along. And season 1 was definitely its own thing. You're not fully connected. I got it, but it was in the air. It was always connected. It was always you're gonna have to deal with it. And I wonder how many people like what you're pitching, Joseph, of just the Perils of Peridia series, and it's like, I need a Skywalker or someone to show up. Like, I wonder how many people Bluff would be called. There'd be some people who'd be completely happy, and it'd be wonderful to explore it. But
yeah, it'd be fascinating. So we do have a Tales of the Jedi season 2 on the way. Are we excited for that? Do we want more Tales of the Jedi as well as other Tales of series? Is something that's coming up a lot in discussions. Ken, how do you feel about Tales of the Jedi and other Tales stories?
I think A+ on both is where I'd rate my interest. Of Tales of the Jedi, I want more. There's a lot more Jedi to explore. I think Tales of other eras. Tales of the Republic. Give me more with Padme. Give me the delegation of 2000. Right, the politicians opposing Palpatine, and fill in some of those blanks. I think. And I remember Filoni kind of knew this was the case, that Padme was underserved in season 7. He just didn't have as much for her, right? Is kind of the way he said it, and why he did throw some stuff in there, and he didn't want it to seem like just a throw-in. He understands the importance of the character. But I would love to see more with her and a younger Mon Mothma. I think there'd be more people interested in Mon Mothma's actions during that time, especially with the deleted scenes from Revenge of the Sith that sometimes get discussed, and they're rather popular out there in the discussion world. And now seeing where we are with Andor, just like, all right, let's see her in young Perrin. Like, what happened? I think, and would that work? Would it be super marketable? I don't know, but I just think this series has the ability to go. We focused on Ahsoka and the Dooku stories from season 1. Or volume 1, which were wonderful. But we got to see young Qui-Gon. We got to see what happened to Yaddle. Those are kind of those explorations of the lore that do hit. And so these series could do all that stuff. Ezra, boom, crash lands on Peridea. Like, he's there. The Purgles drop a Star Destroyer. Now he's there by himself. I wanted 3 episodes on that. That'd be great.
How did Luthen get his wig? Some of those important questions from Andor.
Oh my gosh.
You're right. I think I really love the Tales of the Jedi series. It's one of my favorite things. I like that it is just continuing with the Clone Wars animation. I like that it is exploring these little discrete moments that are rewarding for me to be fleshed out. Getting to see, Ahsoka mourn Padme and risk her life because, like, I have to be at the funeral. Like, those kinds of little moments with these characters who spent a long time with her are valuable to me. So very excited for the second season. I know a lot of people are thinking, well, maybe we'll get a little bit more of Sabine and Ahsoka's first training session. Maybe Filoni will start to put his stamp on Luke and Ben in A Tales of the Jedi. Could we get maybe Asajj just pops up in Bad Batch, but maybe in A Tales of the Jedi we see Quinlan Vos go into Dathomir because he's like, I felt something in the Force, and she's not done. We could see more adventures of Barriss Offee and her cold relationship with Luminara. We could see Terra Nube's last stand. So many tragic. So many great Tales of the Jedi possibilities. But yeah, I think this little bite-sized storytelling could be done across lots of genres within Star Wars and lots of kind of character classes. Jennifer, you have thoughts?
I have thoughts. This show is not for me. It's just not for me. I think I've become a TikTok person where my attention span, it's bad. And I've recently gotten back into TikTok. So if these bite-sized episodes, I really struggle with, because by the time I really get into it, I'm just like, oh, and then it's over. I think that they're beautiful. I loved the Ahsoka one. I showed it to my kids. They wanted to watch it. Then they wanted to watch more. And I'm like, no, that's it. That's it. Sorry. And they're like, but wait. I'm like, what? I think it's a great way for them to explore these topics, these themes, to answer questions. But for me personally, I don't really get much enjoyment out of it.
Are they too long or too short?
I don't know.
They're two in between, right?
They're two in between. They're two in between. That's exactly it. So if I'm going to put something on, what am I going to put on? Well, I'm just going to watch TikTok. It's terrible. I am not the audience because it feels, I'm the wrong person. So
how would you feel if Tales of the Jedi was successful enough that it sort of evolved into the next hearty animated show where the episodes were, 25 minutes?
I would love it.
And it was like an anthology. And instead of spending 5 minutes with Ahsoka, we spent, 4 episodes with her tell the entire story. Basically what your daughters were like, are there more? Like, yeah, then Plo Koon comes. Then this is her first year at the Jedi Temple. And like be a little bit more full stories rather than these just sort of quick glimpses of frozen moments.
Yes, because it was so beautiful. It really felt more like a Studio Ghibli type of animation style, which I really loved, and I felt like that would be more interesting for me. Or if it's like a Tales of the Bounty Hunters or Tales of the Underworld, I think that could be kind of fun just to dive into. But again, I'm not going to just put it on. Watch TikTok.
Yeah. I understand. And like for me, some of these are like I don't necessarily rewatch them all the time, but I love them, and I love them existing because I think about them more than I watch them. I think like I've only rewatched Tales of the Jedi, maybe once or twice. I've watched the Dooku Yaddle episode multiple times because it's very pleasing to me and very upsetting at the same time. So it's almost more like I just enjoy thinking about them, enjoying them existing, than necessarily being the thing that I put on to watch with my breakfast kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Ken, did you have more thoughts on Tales?
Well, the timing works for me because my average meal is eaten in less than 10 minutes, but over 7. So it's a perfect Tales of the Jedi. Yeah.
Now, here's a poll I'd be fine with them putting out of like, look, we'll handle the storytelling, but how long does it take you to eat? Because we're trying to figure out how long an episode should be. Fans, let us know. So Vision Season 3 is also on the way in terms of future of Star Wars animation. Ken, how important do you think shows like Vision are, these sort of non-canon, and again, relatively quick bites, right? They're around 10, 20 minutes, most of them.
Some, and then there's some I look at and go, oh, I have 47 minutes of okay.
Right.
It's weird. Yeah. I actually at the end of the day really do love and appreciate Visions. It's kind of almost like you were saying, Jen, it's almost not for me. But this last round, there's a couple of them that absolutely moved me. And I saw someone, I wish I had the name. I want to shout someone in our YouTube comments when we were discussing the what ifs last week said Visions is kind of a what if. It's just, I'm adding words to their comment now, but it's just like, it's not Luke and Han and all those characters. It's just, what if this was over here? And what if the themes were over here? And I think it does work on that level. So I want it to keep going. I know there's so many passionate fans about it for the series. And I don't have that passion for it, but I really appreciate it. And this last round really, I think because it was season 1 was solid too, but I think because it was different styles and all around the world, I really liked that. Then that drove home the ideas behind the series a little bit more for me. So I'm excited to see what's coming next. Even though I have that really the push pull, I don't adhere to canon in every step of my life. Then I'm like, well, it's not canon. I'll invest in it a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the canon thing can become pedantic, but the value of it is you spend a lot of time with the characters. So Ahsoka attending Padme's funeral, hits me in a different way than seeing the exact same scene with characters that I'm meeting for the first time. It would still be powerful. I would still get the themes. I would still get the message, and I would still enjoy it. But it wouldn't resonate across the many years that I have personally lived with those characters and live in my imagination as strongly. That to me is the difference between the sort of canon, not canon. It's how much I really enjoy Visions, and for me, it's a great sample platter because I don't think there's a single one I've watched and said I don't like that. That's not for me, or I think that's poorly done. Enjoy them all. Enjoy talking about them all, and then for both seasons, there's like 2 or 3 that's like, oh damn, that's great. And I've rewatched the Spy Dancer from the second season is just phenomenal. And I hope it keeps going, because I think it reinforces the idea of Star Wars as a sandbox, or Star Wars as a canvas. And when I'm watching all of them, what affects me is watching what other people celebrate about Star Wars. So either a specific theme or a specific visual or a specific aesthetic. And it just seems a great way to sort of celebrate all the different ways that Star Wars is cool by watching different people go, this is what I love about it. And that's what I'm gonna focus on. I also think it continues to be valuable to have a absolutely no effort entry point to Star Wars. If you've never watched Star Wars, you're just like, you want to get the vibe? Like, the vibe is there in Visions. It's lightsabers and bounty hunters and found family and hope in dark times. It's everything in Star Wars. It's a sample platter.
I would love for them to take their budget for season 3. They have such great characters. I really liked the characters and the animation style that we got in the first few seasons. I'll make a movie. Now, I know obviously you'd have to rework some things, obviously, to create an original story. But I feel like there's so much promise and there's so much love for some of these characters that they've introduced and like the styles.
Yeah.
I would like to see that in a new Disney Plus animated movie.
I love that idea. Yeah, no, I put a pin in that because I think that's a great idea. I want to talk films, but I want to make sure that we highlight the new Young Jedi Adventures as well. They're still rolling out. Jennifer, you haven't watched New Young Jedi? Have you watched Young Jedi Adventures? I don't know why I said New Young Jedi Adventures.
Yes, I have.
Jedi? Okay.
Yes, quite a bit with my kids. Sorry, there's a trash truck outside today.
No problem.
So it's interesting because I really like it. My kids enjoy it. There was a time where they would watch like back-to-back episodes, but now they're both kind of starting to grow out of it because it is very much a preschool age thing. And I've also been kind of curious, like, how is this resonating with other kids? I don't see any Young Jedi merchandise, at least at my kids' school, which is usually my gauge. But then again, they're in elementary school. They're not in preschool. Seeing the toys at Target, there's a lot of them. Are they being sold? I don't know. So I'm curious to know how the show is doing. I think it's a great show, great characters. It's really fun to watch. But yeah, I do wonder how big their audience is.
Yeah. And again, we still kind of don't know what streaming services are deciding they want. How do they judge the value? Obviously, if it was, you can't keep a Nubs action figure on the shelf, if it was a Grogu-like success, right, in merchandising, we would know, okay, it has that value. But we don't know how much they're measuring what numbers, if they've decided fighting on their own board, what matters to them the most and how they rate something a success in these days.
We'll know it's working when we have the Nubs generation of Star Wars fans in about 15 years who are like, that was my Star Wars. Yeah. But I'd be curious, even though people in our Discord or online or in our comment section, of if you have young kids that are in it and like Jen was saying, have stuck with it or not stuck with it, because it's a fun phenomenon, because I think a lot of people discussing it are adults who like it, which is great. But it's like, I always make the joke, I play Fortnite a lot, and I'm always making the joke like, oh, some 12-year-old's probably defeating me. It's probably a 52-year-old, right? Like, and a friend of mine just said the stats. There's like 38% over 45 playing the game or something like that, right? So it's not just the old joke of, oh, some kids kill it. So I wonder how many are adult Nubs fans who just love Nubs, and how many are the target audience?
Yeah, the 12-year-olds who were kicking your ass on online video games 15 years ago aren't 12 anymore.
Yeah, they're definitely there. But yes, yeah. To your point, yeah, it's like making a millennial joke when it's like, Josh, you are a millennial.
Yeah. Yes, there's that brief window where everybody just thought millennial meant young, and like, it's a specific age group, and they're aging.
Right.
I ran into that pitching thing where people kept being like, you need to use the word millennial. Like, I don't mean millennial. I mean a 20-year-old. Not anyway. I've really enjoyed what I've seen. It is absolutely preschool. I'm not caught up on the last batch, but there were some that were getting into a little bit more complex lessons, so it felt like it was aging up, where it wasn't a sort of clear-cut answer of share or be nice or don't rush. It was a little bit like, you can't fight with him, but he's not going to be your friend. You got to live with that, So it does seem to me like it is aging up a little bit. I do like it that it's a great entry point, and it is a great place to. I always have the bias that the Star Wars story from Lucas, Filoni, and many other creators are the Jedi are heroes, but it's complex, and so we have to question them. But I think a lot of the way Star Wars fans often feel is the Jedi are bad. So I really like a preschool age show that shows the Jedi at a time they're functioning well, and the Jedi are heroes. They're good. It's
right.
The thing I wonder about Young Jedi Adventures, in Jen, you're adding some highlight, is how long can something specifically geared to preschool last? Does it need to, can it run for 8 seasons if it ages with the kids? Or if it's like Young Jedi Adventures comes back next year and, hey, Nubs and friends graduated, and here's, 3 kids, so it stays in a preschool
I like that
cycle. Or,
Huh.
I'm just kind of
That's
wrestling with the idea of like, there are shows that have existed that aren't narrative necessarily, like Mr. Rogers or Sesame Street or Captain Kangaroo, that are there for a long time. And when you're the age of watching them, you watch them and then you age out of them. But I'm kind of fascinated with, is that the goal with the show, like Young Jedi Adventures, to be like, yep, your kids are going to age out of it, and then other kids are going to come along.
Could come on.
That's it. That's what they have to do, is they have to have a stable of different animated shows for different ages. And so right now they have the preschool slot, which is great, right? But you got to have something now in between that and Rebels, maybe something a little bit more accessible. I don't know, because I think like my 8-year-old will still watch Peppa the Pig with my 4-year-old. Peppa the Pig is freaking hilarious. It's freaking good, right? It's not like Peppa's like doing anything new, but like it's just entertaining to watch, and they're I love their British accents. But it is funny. So I think that it can work if you know that there's something new that you can, or something that like the bigger kids can watch. That's not Clone Wars. That's not Rebels. It's got to be in between. Maybe even have another preschool type show, even more basic, the ABCs of Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
The more that you have, the more longevity that these shows have. I mean, look at Disney Junior that has all these shows.
Yeah, and I sometimes wonder if that's one of the many reasons that Resistance was only 2 seasons, is because it was pitched a little bit younger than Rebels and Clone Wars.
Right, but that was confusing for people at that time.
Yeah, and I feel like both Clone Wars and Rebels was like, hey, if you happen to be 12 right now when it broadcasts, great. Now we're growing up. By the time we get to season 4,
buckle up, kid.
Buckle up, kids, because it's a show that grows with kids.
Right.
And I'm fascinated with this idea of like, what is it? What would Star Wars Sesame Street be? That's just like, kids come in, then they go out, but the show remains.
That's my Wampa puppet show. That's what that is. That's what that is.
Yeah, Jen, you got to get on this.
If I had good puppeteering skills, man, I'd fulfill that need.
Yeah,
we get that.
Fascinating
I was today years old when I realized that Peppa the Pig is not Parappa the Rapper from that video game. I had a really weird crossing of the streams in my brain, and you just saved me.
Speaking about very specific dated ideas, yes.
Oh, I don't even
Let's talk about animated films, because this is something that comes up. Jennifer, you brought it up in a great way. It's something that fans often wonder about, ask about, of the possibility of animated films in theaters or on streaming. They could be original, or many fans have asked us about, hey, would you ever like to see any of the Star Wars novels adapted to an animated movie? Ken, how do you feel about animated films in Star Wars as opposed to animated series?
I think there's a place for it, and everyone can make their jokes about the Clone Wars movie, and I know. I didn't. We were there. Joseph was actually there. Like, we know it didn't work as well, but I think it's a different time, different era, and I think animation has a different kind of level of respect for it than 2008. Though there were some great shows and stuff like all that, but I think it's looked at differently, and so I think you can approach it like that. The book idea. Something I was excited about years ago. Less excited because I'm less excited. Oh God, Jen, it goes back to the discourse thing. Say they do Lost Stars. You cannot. There's no way you can make it page for page on screen, right? So there's going to be something, and there's going to be some changes, and hopefully the right changes, and hopefully respectful changes of the characters. But then it would be. Yep. It'd be that whole thing again.
You missed the most important blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And I don't know how many times it's helpful. The book and movies have to be different. The books and shows have to be, you want them to be. Anyways, but that aside, Joseph, I'm going to, in spirit of what you're talking about, I'm going to push through. I'd still like to see that. Still like to see it. Lost Stars would play very well, I think, on a big screen, an animated movie. Go for it. Do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to bring it to a wider audience. And I mean, the adaptations of books that didn't turn out, film adaptations of books that didn't turn out the way people wanted them, is perhaps one of our oldest things to be angry about as fans. I think we
Yes.
can survive.
Yes.
If you're a Star Wars fan and you're upset about the Lost Stars adaptation, welcome to a legion of Jane Austen fans about which adaptation you're good.
Welcome to the Bonfire of the Vanities fan group. Yeah.
Hey,
Oh
welcome to
my
James
gosh.
Bond, which quickly diverges from the books entirely.
Yes.
Yeah, the television show Outlander. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I really get it. We are all wounded by the discourse, and there's some things that I think fans are sharp about. That like the thing with Asajj, where they had to get ahead of it. They knew putting her in the trailer would spark a specific reaction, a specific question, so they put it in the press release right away. I think that's a great example to me of being aware of fans' passion in a respectful way. But but some people aren't going to like it. It's like, well, then let's not make any more Star Wars.
Right.
Again, remember that fan group that published "We're quitting because Empire Strikes Back" is not Star Wars.
It's not Star Wars.
Gosh.
It's not Star Wars.
So I agree with you. It would be a rough ride for adapting the novels into animated movies, but it would also expose more. Look at the amount of sales Dark Disciple is getting. Right.
Right.
What might it do for Claudia Gray and her career to have a loss? What would it do for people to be able to see that book? What would it do for the idea of, do you think you don't like romance in Star Wars? Here you go. You think you're sick of the original trilogy era and there's nothing more to be said? Here you go. So many more people would be exposed to it. For me, what I get excited about when we're looking at the possibility of more Tales of the Jedi or a new series that could tackle this, I feel like there are like these stories that are floating around that fans are excited about, and like, I would love that story, but it feels bigger than a 50-minute Tales of the Jedi. Or maybe but it's not long enough to be its own new animated series. Like Obi-Wan and Satine on the run, falling in love under Qui-Gon's nose while they're hunted by bounty hunters. I don't know. Maybe that could be 8 seasons of a television show for me. But I think if it was like established characters, if it was, Obi-Wan and Satine in love, and like some people are like, what? Obi-Wan's 13, 14, or 15, however old he is, and he's fallen 16, he's fallen in love. What? But if they did it as we're not trying to blow the doors off of the box office. We're doing like 1 week of in theater screening, and then it's straight to streaming. It's like this is for fans, and we know the general audience isn't going to turn out in droves. We're not going to make 200 million at the box office, but the fans who care, and there are a lot of them who care about Obi-Wan and Satine, are going to show up, and then it lives on streaming. Watch it if you want to watch it. Don't if you don't. It'll making a little bit of money for the weekend. Will be reported as a success, not as a failure, because it's a limited thing. So
I hope that. Yeah, I'd love that.
I got one, and I pitched it before as live action. Claudia Gray's Leia, Princess of Alderaan. I want this to be beautiful, cinematic, Studio Ghibli type film, right? Gorgeous. You will have people lining out the theater, cosplaying as young Leia. You'll have kids dressing up. You'll bring in a whole new group of fans. And you could probably, I don't know how long the Boy and the Heron, if it's still out, that was the latest Studio Ghibli film, but like you could have it out in theaters for a little bit, and then of course do a Disney Plus exclusive to get new subscribers. I just think it'd be amazing.
I think it'd be a great one.
That's a great one. That's a really great one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
A couple other sort of floating things that they haven't, it's been sort of alluded to a little bit in some of the publishing. For me, there's a couple of stories that get handled in publishing where like, I just really like to see that on the screen in some way before it gets dealt with in publishing. We still don't have the story of Anakin forging the Skywalker blade and Obi-Wan forging his new blade. And that the Brotherhood novel kind of danced close to it. And I really like that novel, but I was like, leave it alone. Because personally, I want to see it on the screen of the forging of the Skywalker blade. What was the story there? What was the relationship with? Did Obi-Wan and Anakin go to Ilum together as brothers now? Immediately after the events of Attack of the Clones. How did that happen? That's
I love that.
there's been a ton of Kira storytelling, but I think we still don't have the actual story, to my knowledge, in the comics or books of her Kira versus Maul. And that would be an amazing, animated film, 90-minute animated film.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. That one, I know what you mean, because I don't want to sound like I'm slighting books or comics for being less than. I really want to make sure I'm clear about that, because I've just spent 10 years just loving all of it pretty much there. But yeah, there's some moments that just need to be done in a bigger fashion. Kira versus Maul. If it's not Emilia Clarke in live action, it's great. But animation, just hit those big notes with those.
Yeah. If there was a book that was Obi-Wan and Satine on the run, I'd be thrilled. But I also just kind of feel like it isn't, to me, even about like what I artistically prefer. It's about reach, and it's just. The screen reaches more. Live action reaches more than animation. It's just a reality. Maybe it changes, but So we've talked about, as we've gone along, some of the business realities. Streaming right now, and animation in particular, is really constricting right now. I say that from experience. I just had to give up on trying to sell an animated show because it's just not. It ain't happening right now. This is not even like reading tea leaves. These are pronouncements from executives. We're not going to. We've done too much. The era of we sell our streaming services by fire hose is slowing down, at least for now. Do you, Ken? How do you read the tea leaves of business realities with those concrete statements? Do you think Disney Plus sees a Star Wars animated show as vital?
Not as much as I'd like, right? Look what happened at the end of Bad Batch last year. The dramatic conclusion of season 2. It's on the same time as the launch of Mandalorian, the most popular thing we have going right now, right? Like, I think there's some of those things we'll see this year. I don't think there's going to be anything to cross over with it in the Star Wars world, at least this time around. That just might be a scheduling thing. But yeah, everything changing. It's kind of, again, we always want to make sure no other Star Wars medium is less than, but the realities in terms of business are, right? The animation industry is feeling the effects of that. And so I think that's behind some of the Mandalorian Grogu movie and the Lando series. Now it's a movie, and I think you're seeing a little bit of a shift. And you're right, the ability to go to an app that you don't even know the name of. What's Tube, and you're like there, and you're like, there's 17 animated shows. Like, well, I don't know what's going on. Like that day is not necessarily done, but it's changing as you're feeling, Joseph. And I can echo what you're saying about that. But yeah, I'd love to see that Disney, Uncle Bob, those folks would still see Star Wars animation as viable. I don't know if they do right now. That could change, but I don't know. The more is going to come, because I think Lucasfilm sees it's a they respect it, but
but can they get the paycheck right now? Jennifer, what do you think?
From what I've heard in the industry from people in animation, they've said that they're struggling, and that their bosses, there's no jobs. The studios do not believe that audiences want to see animated films. You look at Wish, Disney, and it did not perform as well as their other. I mean, this is a Disney movie, and it didn't perform what they thought. They saw Elemental as a flop. Only did they say, it actually was okay because it did well overseas. So it's really a challenging time for animation right now. But if you look at the engagement numbers, which we know that they do, you look at the engagement numbers on a show like Bad Batch, and it is through the roof. I mean, I could not believe, like, on the trailer that they released on the Star Wars YouTube channel, those numbers were going up, all the likes going up. So I think that Lucasfilm knows that there's value in that. They know that there's hardcore fans that want to see that. Will that translate to a movie or something? I don't know. But we know that Lucasfilm understands that animation is important.
Yeah. My hope is that Lucasfilm has the leverage within the overall Disney business model to say, making an animated series along the lines of Clone Wars Rebels Bad Batch, that's an ongoing story with characters that audiences are going to fall in love with. This is like paying the electricity bill and the water bill. This is money that's spent to maintain what we have.
Yes.
That I think the animated shows are key to building new fans. Look at the utter success of the HasLab of the Ghost, of the attachment that people have to those characters from Rebels that led to the success of Ahsoka, the attachment that people have from Ahsoka to the Clone Wars. I mean, it's not scientific. It's absolutely just, experiential. But how often do we encounter, talking to listeners and viewers, that Clone Wars is where they started, that Rebels is where they started, animation is huge in, I think, bringing people into the world of Star Wars and creating a deep attachment with the characters. So I hope that they see it as sort of fundamental to introducing the galaxy to younger generations and hooking new people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, it's key.
Yeah. All right, we are wrapping up. I've got a weird, fun question, but Jennifer, first, any other big picture thoughts about the future of animation or your relationship with it?
No, except that I was thinking about when I've gone to conventions and like everyone, it's all about the animation, right? The animated fans. It's rare that in person I would meet somebody who only is like, I'm a sequel trilogy fan. No, like it's this hardcore fan base that loves Rebels, Clone Wars, Bad Batch. You can't overlook that. It feels like it's really become the backbone of Star Wars fandom.
Yeah, I love that. Ken?
Yeah, I agree. When you go to those conventions at the big those panels are packed and rabid. And I mean, we had Anaheim 2022, just being there for some of the Rebels stuff and just being around some folks who were like diehard Rebels fans, which I would say I'm a giant fan of Rebels, but like this was their Star Wars. It was pretty powerful to witness and be around. So I love that. Look, my final thoughts are, I think the future's somewhat in flux when it comes to Star Wars overall, just the business, because everything you're talking about, Joseph, and everything hey, Other Center exists as proof that the business went through some struggles and changes and all those things. So going forward isn't clear, but I take some hope in this. Whatever is coming out, the next big animated show has not only been around for a bit, it's been in development for years. We don't know what it is, but whatever it is, they're already working on it, because that's how animation works, obviously. And it is coming. So it's like what Leia says. If you can't see the animated show during the night, the sun, Poe tries to take over your ship. It's a thing. It's a thing. But I think we're gonna have some good stuff coming.
You heard it here first. Right now, being prepared for announcement is the life and times of Hondo Ohnaka.
There it is.
And some fans will think, I don't want that. I don't need that. And then they will fall in love with the life and times of Hondo Ohnaka. You never know what you're going to think.
Yes.
Yeah. A great point, though, that this is so much fun and to think about. But you're right. This decision was made a long time ago, and it's either going to come out or the plug is being pulled as we speak.
There was,
we don't know.
I was having an offline conversation with someone from Lucasfilm, and they were like, my earliest designs of the Ahsoka live action series were like, early 2018. It's like,
wow.
Yeah. And the pipeline is so long. Yeah. So it's fascinating.
Crazy.
Fascinating. Here's my fun, weird question, because I do love the character designs on Clone Wars in particular. Ken, if you were a character on Clone Wars, how would your features be exaggerated? Would you have a long, thin head like Count Dooku, tiny limbs like Ahsoka, a beard that cuts people like Obi-Wan Kenobi? What would your
No, I think mine, because also I haven't trimmed it up. It'd be a little more poofy, be like a circle, be like almost a little more a Balin circle. My head is large. I have to order special order baseball caps, so it would be, I'd have that, and I'd almost be like Dirge from the Gendy series. But it'd be a big block. They just put a big Minecraft block on my head.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Jennifer, would you have a big hat like Cad Bane? Who would you be? What would you be like?
I'd be more like Ahsoka, because when I saw Ahsoka, I was like, that's me, just with the saturation up on my skin made me more orange, as some makeup artists have done when I have done jobs. Oh, yeah. But that would be me. Orange.
Yeah. I think they would probably give me a long, thin face, in kind of googly eyes with just big bags. I think it would be big bags under the eyes. Is at Barnes and Noble this weekend, and I bought a this graphic novel that's sort of like it's the original actual story of Bram Stoker's Dracula novel, but with Bela Lugosi's image put into it instead of the a differently described version of Dracula that exists in the original novel. But it's got a huge picture of Bela Lugosi on it. And the mom kind of looked at it, and then she looked at me and he's like, "You could play Dracula." It's like, it's like, I'm going to take that as a compliment. And she's like, "Yeah."
Oh,
Love that.
Yeah. I think they'd make me look like Dracula, and I'd be okay with it. All right, that's our big look at the future of Star Wars animation, and also really for us, the value of Star Wars animation. Ken, what else we got?
Hey, we remind you this. Remind you to check out our Patreon page as we begin to sign out. We are trying to build towards a goal over there of doing exclusive commentaries for patron supporters, but also available to the public with a one-time purchase price. That's right. You too can get in on the action. But to do that, we're going to reach 400 paid subscribers. We are at 391 now at the time of this recording. So if you want to head over there and support us, it's a great way to support the show. Keep it going. Patreon.com/ForceCenter. We're also on Twitter and Threads, ForceCenter Pod. Instagram as well. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We're available on a lot of spots as a podcast. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Just search. You'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And again, as I said, you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to my website, kennapzok.com, for things like the music show I do, Pop Rockin' Radio, my ASMR channel, Sports Card ASMR. Or if you want to buy some Star Wars Legos, there's a resale. They're there. Just check them out. Hey, Joseph, where can they find you?
You can find me on all the various social media at Joseph Scrimshaw. Whatever your favorite is, my handle is probably there, is at Joseph Scrimshaw. I'm telling people about this newsletter blog thing that I've been doing every week. It's been really helping me stay focused on the goals that I want to accomplish in the week. I want to help encourage people in their creative and life adventures as well. If you're interested in checking it out, it's called Finish Your Monsters, and you can find it by going to buttondown.email/finishyourmonsters. That's it for me.
There you go. Jennifer, take us home. Where can they find your puppet show?
You can find my soon-to-be-released Wampa videos, Star Wars Word Nerd videos at Jennifer Landa on where? Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There it is. All right. We are looking forward to the next Star Wars animation project, and I know you all are as well. Thanks for listening today here on ForceCenter.